Hello and welcome to Pisces Moon Astrology. I'm your astrologer, Kait Leonard, and I'm excited to explore the stars with you. Hi everyone, welcome to the week of December 22nd through December 28th, and I'm not going to even say it anymore, but here I go. Wow, what a week it is. All right, let's get ready for the astrology. We've got two planets, count them two, squaring off with Saturn this week. And while there are a million other things going on, those are the two aspects that I'm going to focus on because I think they're going to impact all of us to some degree or another. Let me tell you the dates for those, and then I'll give you just a rundown of some of the other things that are happening this week, and then we'll get into the details. So, on December 24th, we've got Jupiter, the planet of expansion, forming that square with Saturn, the planet of restriction. So that's interesting right there, right? Then on December 26th, we've got Mercury, and we all know and love Mercury. Thank goodness he's come out of his retrograde for this. Anyway, ruler of intellect, communication, how we make money, travel, right? Especially short distance travel, but all travel. Mercury will then go into his square with Saturn. So around the holiday times, I'm expecting some travel snafus, but we'll get into it. So like I said, let me give you just a few of the other really big things that are going on. And honestly, it was a little bit hard to decide what to talk about this week. But these Saturn things, I think, are especially important, especially since Saturn's getting ready to change signs early 2025. He's super active in those last degrees of Pisces. But we also have this week the Sun squaring the North Node. That has something to do with shining the light on destiny, right? Some fated action or circumstance that we're probably not liking what we see at first glance, given that square energy. We've got Mercury opposing Jupiter. I'm not super worried about that one. That's Mercury sort of small thinking in opposition to Jupiter, big thinking and philosophy, and they're going to be looking for some balance. And then we've got Venus squaring Uranus, the planet of freedom and rebellion and unexpected change. So, and it's a square. It's again a square. Y'all know what Venus is. I'm not going to even go into that. So I'm saying look for unexpected, probably tense shenanigans in relationships. And do remember that that can be relationships of any kind, not just love relationships, though, it could hit you there. And then finally, we're going to talk about this more next week, but it's kind of in the transition between weeks. Mars is going to move into his second opposition to Pluto. We talked about the first one a few weeks ago. You can go back and look for that if you didn't get it. This is the second. However, the first one from his position in Leo. And there's going to be a third coming up. So that's a pretty big deal. But again, we'll get into that energy in another episode. And yes, I am trying to get to the point that I can put out more than one episode a week. If you want to get some of my daily little snippets, like here's what's going on today kind of stuff, do follow Pisces Moon Astrology on Instagram. That's where I do that. I'm not super regular with it, but I am trying to get more regular with it. I'm also still planning to launch the video version of the podcast on YouTube, hopefully the first of the year. I'm a January birthday, so I'm hoping to do it for my birthday. So there's more to come, but right now with one episode a week, I'm picking out the biggest things I can, and I hope they're helpful. Okay, so let's talk about Saturn. And I'm just going to fess to it right now. I got a very Saturn heavy chart. So perhaps because I've always lived with a lot of Saturnian energy. I just don't think he's as bad as some people think. I know there are astrologers out there right now with the doom and gloom on these Saturn squares coming up. And I'm not saying they're not going to be tense. And I am definitely not saying they're going to be fun. Saturn is not fun, right? He's just not fun. Important, but not fun. So I want to start with this. Saturn isn't bad. I know the ancient astrologers called him the greater malefic and all of that. He's not bad. He's the force that allows us determination and the ability to stick to a project and see it through to its end. He's the mountain goat climbing the mountain step by step to reach the top. Nobody would have success or nobody would work hard to reach any of their goals if we didn't have Saturn. So I don't understand why he gets such a bad rap. I personally like him. It's just he's not warm and fuzzy. That's just all there is to it. He's not. The other thing that's important to keep in mind for this week is Saturn rules boundaries. So expect that in some areas of your life, you're going to be setting boundaries, okay? And again, not fun, but there you have it, right? And Saturn also rules saying no. So that is very likely to come up, that we're going to have to tell some people some harsh truth. We're going to set boundaries. We're going to say, no, I'm not taking that anymore, or whatever it is. We're going to get more specific. Don't worry. But those are the kinds of things. Saturn helps us create a firm foundation, though. Okay, so while we're struggling, that's probably too much. I just said he's not so bad. Now I'm going to say we're struggling. But while we're grappling with this energy that isn't going to be easy, do remember that Saturn is helping us really create firm foundations so that we can build a solid structure in our lives around whatever the issues are. And that's going to depend on what house it's coming up for you in. Okay. So to look at your chart, we want to look for this first square on December 24th. That's Jupiter square Saturn. Saturn's in Pisces and Jupiter is in Gemini. It's sort of an interesting thing because Saturn doesn't love being in Pisces. I mean, Pisces is all watery and touchy-feely, and Saturn is all like, can we get to work now? And Jupiter doesn't love being in Gemini because Gemini, ruled by Mercury, right? Gemini is very much the social butterfly. Let's do a little of this, a little of that. Jupiter's like philosophical, right? Wants to look at bigger picture things. It's the guru in a way, right? And so neither of these planets is super happy, and we have a square. The one good thing that I find interesting, Jupiter is the ruler of Pisces, where Saturn is. That means Jupiter is like the host and is sort of bound to take care of Saturn to the best of his ability. The planets had to follow the, basic old school manners, just like the rest of us, right? So Jupiter, even though he's in detriment in Gemini, he's still trying to keep Saturn comfortable. So what does all of this mean? I don't think this first square on the 24th is going to be so bad or so hard. I do think Gemini is about communication, socializing, social groups, networking, technology, all of that. And I do think that's where we're going to be asked to set some boundaries, say no. It's the holiday season. In a way, any big surprise that we're going to have to tell some people no? How many of us are being invited to way too many things? And tell the truth. And really, honestly, in your own brain, tell the truth. How many of those things do you really not want to do? Right? It may be because there are a lot of political tensions in families right now, and I'm not going to go into it. But I'm just saying, I'm hearing a lot of people turning down invitations with family members and friend groups, like the sort of broader friend groups, because they sit on different sides of the political fence and things are tense right now. It would be better during this Saturn square to say no. Like, nope, mom, I'm not coming to dinner. Or no, friend, lover, coworker, whatever it is, I'm not doing that social event this year. I'm going to pass. That's it. It would be better to do that than go into one that you know is going to blow up. Because with these planets involved, and with Mars retrograde, that blow up could be fierce and ugly. Okay. So keep that in mind. I don't think this is a bad transit. I think that it's actually helping us. But it's always difficult to set boundaries, especially with people you love, people you care about, family, all of that. It's always difficult to set boundaries. It's always difficult to disappoint people, right? Mom's going to make that face at you. You know she is. And it's hard, but do it. It's going to be harder not to. I promise you. But to really know where this is going to hit you, look at your Gemini house. That's the place where you're going to probably need to say no, set some boundaries. For example, Gemini is my second house. Okay. So I probably would need to set boundaries around money issues, right? Fourth house, family, seventh, relationship, 10th house, work. You get it. First house, do you need to set some boundaries and say no to yourself? And this can have to do with things that are unhealthy, overeating, any of that stuff, because first house also has to do with your body. So just, you have to look at your natal chart. Where is Gemini? Gemini? Jiminy Cricket? No. Where is Gemini? And what issues come up in that house? All right. Then just 2 days later, on the 26th, we get Mercury moving into his square with Saturn. So we should be getting used to all of this Saturn boundary stuff, right? And the interesting thing is, this square is not going to be so different from the first one because Mercury has a lot in common with Gemini, right? Mercury is the ruler of Gemini. So you may see like we're doing something on the 24th. We're saying no, we're setting boundaries, we're doing something, and you might see like similar themes or some unresolved bits of that come up again. Like you told mom you weren't going to holiday dinner, but then she invites you for an after holiday dinner and you're like, no, I'm still not going, right? So don't be surprised if you see these like, I don't know, at least recurring themes maybe, but also consider that Mercury is in Sagittarius. Remember, we just came out of that truly dreadful, in many ways, retrograde. Well, Mercury at the time of this square is still in Sagittarius. It's an interesting kind of idea to consider. So Mercury was making us rethink our long-term goals in some ways. Again, what house does Sagittarius occupy? The goals probably were long-term goals around those house issues, right? That's how it works. So Mercury already had us rethinking all of that stuff. And now Saturn comes along and said, okay, you were rethinking your big plans, your big financial plans, family plans, romantic plans, travel plans, whatever house it's in. You've rethought them. Now, what kind of boundaries do you need to set? Maybe in that rethinking, you decided like, well, I was going to launch my new business plan right away, and I now realize it was too big. After rethinking my initial launch, I was trying to do too much at one time. So I'm going to have to set some boundaries on that and limit it. Saturn rules setting limits. So I'm going to have to limit this for my first launch, right? Or maybe you had planned that you were going to move your relationship to the next level. And maybe the next level isn't quite what you thought it was going to be, and you're going to have to set some limits. So apply it wherever it goes in your chart, but that's the kind of thing we're talking about. The other thing that I think this square might force us to deal with is the hard work that we need to now start putting into achieving those long-term goals, right? We did all the rethinking. Now we're setting some boundaries. We're setting some limitations. We're making sure that our scope is not too big. That's Sagittarius, right? Sagittarius is big in its scope. I want to shoot the arrow way, way out there, right? So, and Saturn says, maybe that's too far. Maybe bring that target in just a little bit, all right? So we're doing all of that kind of stuff. And now it's time to buckle down and get to work. And Mercury doesn't love that part of it. And Sagittarius also doesn't love that part of it so much, right? Sagittarius is about those big plans. Mercury loves to think about it and talk about it and do all of that kind of stuff. But neither one of them is really like, let's roll up our sleeves and get into the actual, bricklaying. It is now time to do the hard work it takes to get this stuff going. And that may have us revising a little bit more. It's like, ooh, now that I kind of plot out all of the work that needs to be done, maybe I need to change my launch date or whatever it is, okay? So there's going to be a lot of boundary setting, hard work, revising things, but I think it's all really good in the long run. Again, like I said, if you want to launch a business, a relationship, have a baby, whatever your thing is, you need to do the work, right? And we all know this. It's just that, well, I know I need to, and I'm going to. That doesn't mean I'm, like happy about it, right? I wish somebody would come in and make it easier. So nobody's going to come in and make it easier. That's the thing. The other thing to look out for a little bit, especially because Gemini was involved in the first square, Mercury's involved in the second one, we may need to set some boundaries on mercurial things like our communication. This is a time in a different way from a Mercury retrograde where everything just gets all messed up sort of randomly. This is a time where you might want to consider the boundaries around how you communicate in important situations. Are you too blunt? Are you giving away more information than you need to? Set boundaries. Saturn, talking or writing or whatever it is, however you communicate, that's Mercury, right? So are there ways in which, especially, like I said, it's the holidays, that makes things a little bit dicey in some situations. We've got a tense political climate in the US and in other places around the world. So I know I have international listeners. I don't want to leave you out. We're all going through tense, yeah? So consider how you communicate, especially in those like work communication, any really. Just be careful. Not be careful. That's not at all what I mean. Look at it clearly and consider whether you need to set some limits, rein yourself in a little bit. Also, look at how other people are communicating with you. Are you tired of listening to somebody, right? Somebody's been nagging you about something forever, or somebody speaks to you disrespectfully, or any of that. Saturn will help you say no to those things. So that's a whole other take on how this could play out. This could be us laying the foundation for a better relationship moving forward by setting some boundaries and saying, I'm sorry, you don't get to speak to me like that. I know I'm just throwing this little thing in here just because I know you're going to hear some people calling this a T-square. That's where two planets, in this case, Jupiter and Mercury, are squaring the same planet, Saturn, and they oppose each other. And it is true that we are in a T-square. I don't think that normally that's a very, very challenging configuration. I don't think we need to worry about the Mercury-Jupiter opposition. I'm not at all concerned about that. Normally, an opposition is very tense, and it means we need to find balance. This one doesn't concern me. Mercury is in Sagittarius, that is ruled by Jupiter. It's opposing Jupiter in Gemini, which is ruled by Mercury. That is a mutual reception, meaning they're hosting each other, right? They're in each other's signs. And normally that means things go very, very well because these planets are taking care of each other. So I don't think there's going to be any problem with that opposition. That's why I'm not really reading this as like a T-square, ooh, everybody gets scared. All right. So at least we don't have that. And again, I think the things we do with Saturn stepping in here, the boundaries we set, the foundations we build, I think that when we look back on this period, I think we're going to see that a lot of good, really solid life changes came from this. Okay. So I hope that was helpful. And thank you all. I'm just so filled with gratitude. I can't even tell you. I'm wishing you all happy, whatever you celebrate, all the stuff. And if you don't celebrate anything at all, enjoy a cup of cocoa or whatever it is you drink for the winter. So I'm just really grateful. Go subscribe to my Substack, Pisces Moon Substack, totally free. And there are a couple of different things I do over there. Follow me on Instagram, Pisces Moon Astrology. And I guess that's it for me. So until next week, go out and seize the energies of the stars. This is my wish for you always. And until then, happy holidays.